Happy Friday out there in watch repair land. So this is a beautiful Hamilton Lancaster pocket watch. It's a size 12. It is one of 153,000 total production, 3,700 in the run, and it went to the finishing department in 1918, November 30th, 1918. It is adjusted. It is not a railroad grade pocket watch by any means. The case is very interesting in this watch. It's a grade 910, and the case it flips open this way, and the case is a Hamilton made case, so only sold by Hamilton. So assuming that Hamilton made it or subcontracted a company to make this case, it's very elegant. It's a very elegant looking pocket watch here. The hands even are thin and very elegant looking. And you actually rotate the watch out of the case. I'm going to turn it like this so you can see this. So you rotate the movement out of the case like so, and there's the insides of the case here, and it's got a 25-year guarantee on the gold, so it's gold filled. It doesn't say the carats, but I suspect it's a 14 karat gold filled. It's beautiful anyway. It's Hamilton Watch Company. The hinge case is actually in very, very good condition. The watch runs. It's jeweled, 17 jewel adjusted. Hamilton Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 910. It runs. It's got the center wheel's got a jewel setting in the center wheel with 2 screws holding it, and there are settings for each one of the other wheels and where the pivots are going through here. It's running, but it's not running very strong. I'd say it's got an amplitude of about maybe 90 to 180 degrees. I apologize. I'll just say a swing on the balance, so I don't have to divide by 2. I'll check that out right now with my cell phone and then show you what that swing looks like prior to cleaning. So the swing on this on the balance is about 180 degrees. As you can see, if you look at one arm and then follow it, it's swinging about 180 degrees. That is not that great. It should go plus 360 degrees swing. The last one I had in the previous video was 540 degrees by the time I finished everything on it. So that is kind of a weak swing on this. So what I'm going to do is strip this thing down and clean it and see what we can get out of it. So I think the trickiest part here is to get this movement out of the case without causing any problems here. So I want to set the hands to 12 o'clock. This is not a lever set watch. It's just a beautiful watch. I just love this watch. It's one of my favorites just because of the style of the thing, right? And it's not often you get a watch that is this high in quality. Need to take the power off the movement. Now remove the movement from the case. There's some screws on either side here that will help for that. Now you pull the setting here, hands out, to let the movement drop out of the case, like so. There's the case, and it is a beauty. Love this case. Clean that up later. I found the perfect movement holder for this watch, and I'm going to take the balance out so I don't disrupt it or disturb it at all. So it's one of the first things I do when I'm working on a watch, just to make sure that I don't foul the balance. I think I've said that a few other times, and I don't want to mess with that hairspring at all, because doing hairspring work, look at that, it came right out, is not an easy thing to do. So let me just take this balance out, and I will put it on a balance cock. And there's the balance sitting there minding its own business. And I also put the screw for the balance cock right there so that I've got the two of them together and I don't lose it. I'm going to just move this out of the way and place that screw back there again. That way I don't lose that screw. So now I've got the balance open. Before I take the plates off, I typically look in my magnifying or my microscope at the jewel, the condition of the jewel hole here before I take the face off. So I'm going to have a look at that. It's actually surprisingly clean for an older movement. And then next job in the lineup is to remove the face, and this face looks like it's embedded into the ring here, and there's a little tiny thing here, a little notch where you probably put a needle to pull that out, but the screws are really small. And once again, when I remove the screws, I usually take the screws out and then not take them out, just back them off a bit, and then I tighten them up again so I don't lose the screws. Sometime when I'm doing this, I'll look down at the mat to make sure that the screws aren't basically sitting on the mat. And then what they'll do is stick to your hands or other parts of your body, and you'll never find them again. So there's the this little crack here. So the bold assumption here is that you put a needle in here and then pull up a bit, and there we go. And I'm getting some, and there's another one here and another one there. So there we go. So that's the face. As face is out, put that aside. And just so I don't lose the hour wheel with its leaf on top there, I just pull that hour wheel straight out, and if it wants to come out. It's got issues, so I'll have to deal with that issue and come back. I was just a bit stuck. There was no so it needs cleaning. Nothing other than that. And I probably want to, if I can get this minute wheel out by untucking it here, I will. If I can't, I'll just leave it in there, so it's fine. I could also take the works out here and deal with that. So we just pull that out and put it aside for now, and then with any luck the cannon pinion comes straight out and I don't have to deal with too much of a cannon pinion struggle issue. There we go. That did not work. So let me just get my cannon pinion remover and remove the cannon. There. I use my cannon pinion remover and I got it loose, and then I use my tweezers, and there's a little bit of an edge there, so you can get your tweezers in there to remove that. So put that aside. There's the cannon pinion gone. Now I can put the movement back in the holder here and then start stripping these parts down. Take out the mainspring if I can. And then like I said, I usually take a picture of this because there's sometimes some strange keyless stuff going on in there. This plate's removed. You take out the gears one at a time. This looks like an interesting configuration because the third wheel is on top of the second wheel. But the wheel should come straight out without a problem. I lift straight up. Then I'm sure I can remove the wheels one at a time. And just pull them straight up like that. Hands of a surgeon. The escapement. And then I'll take out the pallet fork, which looks like a pretty simple configuration here. So I think my screwdriver I'm using is a bit too small for this job, but there you go. I needed to do one more turn on that. Always good to have the right screwdriver for the right job. And Also, you should take time to dress your screwdrivers so that the blades are the right width on the end and the angle is correct, and then you won't have problems with your screwdriver. I think this one here is a wrong screwdriver because it's slipping a bit, so I'm kind of holding it up as I'm turning because I don't want to have issues with this particular movement. So if I just get my screwdriver and you don't want to wedge it from one side only because you could bend the pivot on the top. So this should lift right out, which it's doing, and it's coming with the pallet fork. Avec la pallet fork. So there it is there, and the other side. And like I've told you before, sometimes I don't bother taking this stuff out if it looks super clean, which this does. I can put it into the lighter fluid on its own, and I'll clean this complete movement face first, and then I'll take the cap jewel off here, which is the lower balance jewel, and clean that jewel up and re-oil it, and then the same with the balance cock itself. And time for a little bit of cleaning. A little bit of cleaning action for you. Just lightly brushing the gears, making sure the pinions are grime free, is that a word? So that you don't have any particles in the pinions that'll jam up the outer teeth of a gear. Now I've got to take apart the mainspring, have a look at that. Alright, there she be. So I'll take that out and oil it and put her back together. No need to show you all that because you've seen it on another video. And once you've reassembled the mainspring, stretched it out, cleaned it, it's a good idea to put a little bit of oil on the arbor right here, because that's where it sticks out through the and rotates. So you want it to be nice and smooth. You only really have to put it on one spot, because when that turns, it's going to spread to the other spots without an issue at all. And you can tidy the case up with a little bit of Rodico. Look for dirt and imperfections, and this will clean it up nicely, and there'll be nothing left after you're finished. You just keep rubbing, and the dirt comes off nicely. This particular face is mint condition. Doesn't look like it has any cracks in it anywhere, which is excellent. So you do that, and then once you've done that, keep your fingers off it, because your fingers will leave fingerprints. We've got a little bit of leftover lighter fluid here, so might as well take advantage of that and clean the inside of the case. I typically I will stay away from the crystal, because the glue on the crystal could come off if I attempt to clean the crystal with lighter fluid. So, but I can do that. Crowns seem pretty good. I could take the crown out as well and then do a little bit of work on the crown, but for now, just clean up the case a bit. It'll look a lot nicer, and I usually rub the case with Rodico as well on the inside to get rid of any other imperfections in the case or any other dirt that's on the case, and that looks pretty good there. Now it's time for me to remove the lower jewel, and there's two screws here you've got to loosen carefully, and I will position those screws right back where they were before, so I'm making sure they're not tapped in there or something, and I So when I put them down, I'm going to put them right in the circle here that I have. That is my marker circle I use for putting small parts that I've learned a long time ago that tend to walk away on you. And then I've got to take this little cap off somehow. So I'm going to, if it doesn't come off right away with the needle, I'm going to just pause the video and then come back, because there's a little indentation here to take this cap jewel off, and sometimes it just doesn't come off right away. So I'm going to pause that and take that cap jewel. There, as you can see, the jewel's out, officially sitting there, and there's that's the cap for it, and it's the jewel in the center sitting there as well. So I'm going to clean that up and put it back. Alright, just for interest alone, a little close-up, I'm going to try to sneak in here, and I have to move the light out of the way a little bit because I can't get my head in there. Just put it under here like this. There we go. And I'm going to sneak in here and going to put a little bit of oil on that jewel. There we go. That's perfect. And normally, I sometimes will put the oil in the cap, but in this case, it's so small that it's almost impossible to put the oil in the cap. So what I did was I took the cap off. There's the cap there. Try to rotate that without dropping it. And then I will put that, I'll line that up a bit first, like so. And I will move that over, line it up, and then place it right down there on top. And then I'll take the screws up and I'll put that back in. That's how you do it. Now the cap is back on, and I will clean the all the jewel holes with my my piece of pivot wood. Geez, I can never remember what this stuff is called. Anyway, I'll be back. Alright, reassembling the watch one piece at a time. I just stepped out to go do the mail. Go pick up the mail. And there was mail. Not a lot, but there was mail. Anyway, I'm just going to put this together piece by piece. And it is slowly coming together wheel by wheel and ratchet by ratchet. This one was a bit tricky with the pallet fork because it was giving me some issues putting the pallet fork back together again. So this one is lefty tighty, righty loosey. It's backwards. So anyway, keep working on it. Be back. And I use my world's famous pivot nudger to do this. I just realized the movie was still going here. But anyway, I used my pivot nudger to nudge this, and that worked. That nudged really well, and then once I've got it all nudged in place, and I have my finger over the top here just to give it some, and I tighten these up, but not a lot, just to make sure they're just tight enough, but not too much. And then what I'll do next is put a little bit of power on the movement, and then nudge the pallet fork to make sure it goes back and forth. So if I just grab a bench key here, I can put a little bit of power. I'll tighten everything up after, but put a little bit of power on the movement here. Somehow something's not catching here. What the heck is going on? Anyway, this doesn't seem to be turning, which is not good. It might have something to do with me. No, that's in. That is tight. I'll just power up the movement a bit like this for now. And then I just have to nudge the pallet fork just a bit. I'll use a screwdriver here to touch it. Bang, bang, bang. So that's snapping back and forth, no problem at all. So I got power on the movement. I'll figure out what's going on with the key here. Probably I need to use a smaller bench key so I can get the darn thing in the hole. Not sure whether that's the right one or not. No, it's too small. Amazing. Anyway, I'll figure that out in a second. When using a bench key, depends on the movement actually, you just press in like that. So just press in like that and then turn it, and it's all good. So that worked really well. And now I've got to do some work on the balance cock and the balance. A little bit of selective oiling before I put the balance back on there. Anywhere where there's friction movement, put a little bit of oil there, and it will definitely help the just a general ease of the watch, ease of using the watch maybe. Actually, it just helps the watch so you don't get as much friction. That's all. It's all about friction. Pocket watches are all about friction. And the reduction thereof. Or therein, maybe? Maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but I like oiling the wheels just a bit. And I'll pass that along. And I do oil just the outside of the cannon pinion just a bit, so when the arrow wheel rides on there, there's no issue. And while I'm in the general vicinity, I will oil all of the associated jewel holes and their pivots. And that'll just reduce friction, that's all. Not put too much oil in there because that'll just travel down. No problem. No prob, Bob. And I'm going to break my cardinal rule and oil where the pallet fork is. And remember, I took this off already and oiled that. So that needs no oil. And then I get to put a little bit around the barrel. I think I forgot to do that on my other watch. That's where the arbor sticks through and the plate. Put a little bit of oil of that reduces that friction. And then I'm going to put the balance on foist. I could put the face on actually, but before I put the balance on. Yeah, I could do that. So if I put the face on, just put the arrow wheel down and make sure that's sitting in nicely and meshed with the gears here. Actually doesn't look like it's meshed, but yeah, it's meshed now. I think it is anyway. Yeah, that's meshed there. And I put this leaf back. Usually I put a bit of a bend in it. Just a tiny bit of bend, because its job is to keep the face. It's actually to keep the arrow wheel down on the movement, so that the arrow wheel doesn't ride up, and then you don't get any you don't get the gears pushing up. So I just put a little bit of a bend in it like that. That's the idea. And then let me grab the face. Remember, I cleaned the face earlier, so I don't want to be touching it with my fingertips. 12 o'clock is straight up. I've oiled everything here, lubricated everything here. I don't think there's any more to lubrication and oiling to do. I don't believe so. So I can just pop that on the top, and I think it's somewhere around there. There we go. That's perfect. Then I'm going to put the screws back in, or tighten the screws, and then ready to put in the balance to see if it's any better. I think I'll also press the hands on before I put the the balance in, because I'm not too worried about the friction of anything here. So, but before I do all that, let me just tighten these screws up a little, because I know that I didn't tighten them yet, and if I don't tighten them, I'm going to see problems later on. I think I did that once before, and I forgot to tighten the screws up. But they should all be, I snugged them in, but I didn't tighten them because I didn't want to potentially foul things up. I also have to put oil and oil these parts here. I'll just oil that. That's two of the hands that are on, and I showed you last time that you just look sideways to make sure there's some room for these hands. And to put the second hand on, just lean it on the pivot and then just move it over sideways. Just push it over like that, and then push down on it like this. And then I want to make sure that there's enough room in there so that when I turn the, when I set the time, let me see if I can turn that around. I picked the world's biggest bench key here. So just move that around. Hopefully it moves. There we go. And then when you're doing that, look at it sideways and look at the clearance. So I've got excellent clearance with the hour hand. And then I look at the hour hand to see if it clears the second hand. It's pretty tight. I don't know. I don't know. It looks pretty tight. If it's too tight, you can take your screwdriver. Let me see. That's, I don't know. It seems to ride a little bit low as it comes over here. But you can take your screwdriver and very carefully put it underneath the movement. Make sure I pick a screwdriver that's not so big. And it's also an idea to put a piece of paper in there while you're doing this so you don't ruin anything. And you can just lift it up just a bit. Just a little bit. It doesn't take much. There, that's good clearance there. That's good. So that's how you do that. And I've cleared it, and I can look and see. Yeah, that's good. And it's clearing the minute hand is. Yeah, that's much better. So I've got a little bit of freedom or movement here, so then I can put this at the 12 o'clock position here and look up, straight up, and oh my God, that's brilliant. So that's right on the money. Now I want to put this, I can't flip this around because I don't think, I got to make sure that the movement holder doesn't interfere with the hands. So you can put it in the movement holder like this and then have a look down to make sure that the movement holder itself is not going to interfere with the hands if you're going to use one of these round movement holders. Otherwise, I recommend using just a regular wash movement holder. And now I've got to put the balance in place. I'll let you watch me fumble here. So you want to make sure that if the pallet fork is on this side, the balance has to approach from this side. If the pallet fork is on the other side, you can just pop it to the other bank like that. Then you got to make sure that the impulse jewel is basically approaching it from the same side that the balance is on, and you tuck it under the wheel like so, like that, and then you rotate it, and if you're lucky, everything works. If you're not, you do it like 2 or 3 times until you get it right. So there we go. And I'm not sure if that's going to, you may have to take it out again, you may have to fart around with it. It looks like it's in there, and if it's on the right side, no, it's over banking. So when it does that, and you see it go bounce like that, that means the impulse jewel is on the wrong side of the pallet fork, and you actually have to lift it out again, right, because you cannot do it that way. You carefully, and I could do this under video, you carefully lift it out and then try again. So I'm going to Now whenever I see some chunky movement on the balance like that, I know that I got the jewel in the proper side, and I can just screw down the balance. So what I want to do is put my finger on the top of it a bit, like that, so the balance will sit in place. And then I want to tighten the screw here, but not too much. I got to make sure the balance is actually working before I completely tighten the screw down. So I got some movement there, which is excellent. Pick the right screwdriver. That means the pivots are in the holes. And then I just take this, and is this working or not? It seems to be stalling on me a little bit here for no apparent reason. So I got to make sure that I've tightened this balance down, that it's there we go, that's better. I want it to be, the back needed to be pushed down a bit, so because obviously there was a crack there, so it wasn't in properly. The back needed to be pushed down. So you just have to take it really easy when you're pushing that balance, when you're tightening that screw. Sometimes I've used watch paper, like some of this watch paper in here. I've had to shim the balance if it's pressing too hard or whatever. I've made balance staffs. Usually they're sized right, because I'll put them on a J-Cot tool and then size them later. But I have to sometimes do that to make sure that's right. Now that amplitude looks pretty good, so I'm going to take a video of the amplitude in slow-mo and see if I'm going to see if this slow-mo video works. So let me just zoom in here and take that video of the balance in slow motion. It's usually a 3-second video that I take, and there's the result. So I've got, you see, almost 300, it's just short of 360 degrees on the balance, which is pretty good. That'll work itself in to be a little bit better. But one thing I didn't do, and I just forgot to do it, was to put a little bit of oil. And this is a special type of oil you put in the pallet stones, and this makes them push, or the pallet fork back and forth, so the escapement, the little feet on the escapement push that jewel, and if there's less friction and resistance there, it really gives it a heave-ho. So that works a lot better with this. So I'm going to stop the video, do that, and then see what kind of amplitude I get. Oh, and to do that I have to stop the balance, and I sometimes use Rodico. I just put a little tiny piece of Rodico on the side, because I don't want to interfere with the balance. I don't want to push it with my fingers and stuff. So if I just stick a piece of Rodico on the side like this, and it's going to touch that balance and stop it, and the Rodico won't put pressure on the pivots, then I can look through the hole here, see where the fork is, and then dive in with the oil and an oiler, right, and just touch the you can just touch the escapement, the foot on the escapement, and it'll pass the oil to the stones. But if the stones are accessible, you can do it right on. Now usually you don't do what I did, like put a little Rodico and then just lean it in to stop the balance, but it's fairly safe to do that. Usually you put this on before you put the balance on, so I didn't want to take the balance off again, so I just sort of maneuvered my way in. I used the ×10 magnifier to get in close, and so the watch looks like it's moving really well. Now I should put a little bit of oil in the hinges to make sure that they're the case hinges, to make sure they're nice and loose, or there's a lack of friction there as least as possible. I think this is a shitty oiler. I think the head is broken off of this oiler, but I'll use it anyway. So you want to make sure that I'll use a thicker oil on the hinges here, and that'll work itself in. That's nice, and that's nice. And I think I remember replacing the crystal on this from before. So now all that's needed to happen is to case this movement. I've pulled the crown out already. This is a 35-minute video. Can I get it under an hour? I'm hoping so. So stay away from the balance. That's the trick here. So this goes in like that, which means the movement should be the other way, like this, and sitting in like that, which means if you turn it around like that, and keep an eye on where the hands are, the movement is going to come in like this, I believe. It's kind of crazy. Is that right? I think so. I think it's the only way it can go in. Here we go. So that's like that, and then is that in place here? Nope, not quite. Oh, there we go. So the movement's now tucked in there, and put a real rush on here and put these screws in. Looks like the balance is slowed down a bit from casing it, so just to keep an eye on that and make sure I haven't squeezed anything. Like sometimes you can squeeze the face. You know what? I think my finger is right over the second hand on the other side. It's got to be what it is. Look at that. Remove my finger and the watch starts. Just amazing. So, and I have to, I'm not sure if I was, like I said, did I squish something underneath there or what? Because if you put too much pressure on the face and it pushes on the arrow wheel, then you got other issues. So make sure that's good there, and push down a bit on that. Holding this is nasty. There we go. That one's in, and this one's in. The balance has got a nice turn on it, and the second hand is moving. What time is it right now? It's exactly 3 o'clock, so let's just move this to 3 o'clock and see if anything hits anything. I don't think it should. See if that hour hand is clearing the second hand. Yeah, I've had that jam up before. It's kind of weird. Anyway, 3 o'clock, so put that in there like that. Have a look at the balance again. Make sure I got good movement on there. I think so. It looks like it's moving a little slower than it was before, but it might just be working in that. It might just be working in the stuff I put on the pallet stones. So it could be a little gummy up until it starts running for a while. So I'll check that in a day to make sure it's still running well. I think it's got good amplitude right now. And then I'll adjust the. Once I get it going, I'll adjust the accuracy of the watch as well. So I'll put that on my e-timer software, which is high-end, expensive timer software, but really good. And make sure that I'm getting a good beat error, and I've got the amplitude up pretty high. So that's that. That's the end of the video. 38 minutes, a bit long, but too bad. And that is the cleaning of this beautiful movement. And it is working. There it is. That is a Hamilton as well, made by the Hamilton Watch Company. So that's the Hamilton there. That's its big brother here. And those are the Elgin guys who are trying to take away the rest of the business. So, and this watch is just beautiful anyway. And this watch is as well, this Hamilton. So some very nice, 3 very nice timepieces. Now this one is nicely oiled, cleaned, oiled, and prepared to work for another at least 5 years before I get at it again. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching my videos. If you have any comments, please leave the comments. I appreciate the support I'm getting.